Okay, let's dive right in. On the surface, things look pretty good, right? The market's hitting new highs, the Fed is talking about easing up. But what if that's not the whole story? We're breaking down an analysis today that claims there's a massive, hidden problem that almost everyone is missing.
And it all starts with this one simple question. If everything's really as solid as it seems, then why are some of the smartest, most connected people on the planet selling? It's a real head-scratcher, and it's the key that unlocks this entire analysis. We're not just talking about one or two people here. The source points out a clear pattern. You've got Warren Buffett sitting on a mountain of cash, the most he's ever held. Then there's Zuckerberg, Bezos, the heads of Oracle, and JP Morgan. They're all selling. Even Jensen Huang from NVIDIA has been offloading shares pretty consistently. The analysis says, hey, pay attention. This isn't just a coincidence.
So, to figure out what might be going on, we first need to understand what this analysis calls the capitalist's playbook. It's a strategy it claims the big players use, especially right before a big market shift.
You know, we're all taught to buy low. Simple enough. But this analysis argues that's only half the game. The real point is, you don't actually make a dime until you sell. And if you can't sell high because there's no one left to buy, well, you haven't really made anything at all, have you? So here's how the source breaks it down. On one side, you have the regular buy low, sell high strategy, but the so-called capitalist strategy is different. It's not about finding a high price, it's about creating it. The claim is that big investors coordinate to drive prices up, whip up a bunch of market hype, FOMO, and then, right at the peak, they sell their huge positions to all the eager buyers who just jumped in. Then they get out before it all comes crashing down.
Okay, so that's the alleged playbook. Now let's get to the second major piece of this puzzle, the U.S. Federal Reserve and its role in all of this. Now, the official story is one we've all heard a million times. The Fed is doing quantitative tightening. They're shrinking their balance sheet, pulling money out of the system to cool things down and get inflation under control. Makes sense, right? And the numbers here are just staggering. Since 2022, we're talking about $2.7 trillion pulled from the market. To put that into perspective, the source points out that this is like wiping out 80% of China's entire foreign exchange reserves, something that took them almost 50 years to build up. But here's where it gets really wild. Because of something called financial leverage, where banks lend money over and over again, the real impact isn't just $2.7 trillion. The analysis argues it's magnified, maybe 10 times over. That's a potential liquidity drain of up to $27 trillion. Which leads to the obvious question. If that much money is being vacuumed up, how on earth is the U.S. stock market still hitting record highs? Where is all this liquidity actually coming from? Who's feeling the pain?
And this is the source's big, controversial claim. It argues the Fed isn't really draining money from inside the U.S. at all. In fact, by relaxing some rules, it's allowed American banks to create more money at home. The real squeeze, according to this view, is on U.S. dollars held by other countries. This creates a global dollar shortage, which forces everyone else to come back to the U.S. and borrow those dollars at very high interest rates. Now, we get to what the analysis presents as its smoking gun, the hard data. The thing it claims is the most critical warning sign of all, the state of the financial system's safety nets. To explain this, the source uses a pretty intense metaphor. It talks about two blood reservoirs in the financial system. These are the emergency reserves, the backup pools of cash that are supposed to keep everything running when things get dicey. So, reservoir number one, the reserves that banks are required to keep at the Fed. As you can see, the bar on the right, that's where we are now, is getting dangerously close to the low point it hit during the 2023 banking crisis. That's warning sign number one. But this second reservoir, this is the one that really stands out. It's the Fed's overnight reverse repo facility. Think of it as a massive emergency cash fund for Wall Street. At its peak, it held around $3 trillion. And today, it's been drained to almost nothing. It's basically running on empty. So, here's the bottom line. The analysis projects that at the rate we're going, both of these critical safety nets, these two blood reservoirs, are on track to be completely empty by this December. And according to this source, that is the real reason the Fed is suddenly talking about stopping its tightening. So let's put all the pieces together. The billionaires selling, the Fed's weird liquidity drain, the empty reserves. What does it all look like? Well, the final part of this analysis says it looks eerily familiar. Just look at this timeline.
Back in 2007, inflation was high, but the Fed started cutting rates anyway. And what happened? The stock market roared to new all-time highs. A few months later, 2008 happened. Now, fast forward to today. Inflation is still high, the Fed is signaling it's done tightening, and the stock market is, well, it's hitting new all-time highs. The source just leaves that future with a big, ominous question mark. The analysis argues that this is all a massive psychological game. It's designed to make investors believe that the market is bulletproof, no matter what bad news gets thrown at it. Bank failures, debt crises, global conflict, it just keeps going up. It creates this feeling of invincibility. And this brings us to the final warning, which the source lays out in 4 steps. 1. Create these small dips that always bounce right back. 2. Condition investors to see every single one of those dips as a golden buying opportunity. 3. Build that rock-solid confidence that the market can't lose. And 4. The very last people to pile in, buying at the absolute peak, are the ones left holding the bag when it all falls apart. And so, the analysis leaves us with this final, chilling question. It compares the situation to a neighborhood where a flood is coming. The insiders aren't just selling their houses, they're actively working to drive up the prices before they get out. And the question it poses to all of us is, when that flood finally comes, will you be the last one holding the house?